Good morning, students. In this video, I will continue the explanation of Chapter 7 Conservation of Plants and Animals. In the previous video, I explained you how deforestation poses a serious threat to the survival of wild animals and their natural environment, for which the government decided to establish protected areas for the conservation of forests and wild animals. These are biosphere reserves, wildlife sanctuaries, and national parks. These areas are protected by law, which have been established throughout the country for the conservation of plants and animals present in that area. The various human activities such as cutting of forest trees, cultivation of crops, plantation, grazing of cattle, hunting, all these are not allowed in these protected areas so as to maintain the healthy balance in nature and to prevent the extinction of the wild animals. Now we will discuss all these protected areas one by one. Let's first start with Biosphere Reserve. These are the areas meant for the conservation of biodiversity. Remember what is biodiversity? Yes, the flora and fauna of an area is termed as biodiversity. So how we are going to define biosphere reserve? A biosphere reserve is a large area protected part of the land meant for the conservation of wildlife, biodiversity and the traditional lifestyle of the tribal people living in the area. So what's the special feature of this biosphere reserve is that the local people or the tribals are an integral part, means necessary part of biosphere reserve along with wildlife. Students, Biosphere Reserve is such a larger area that it also contains other protected areas in it. For example, a Biosphere Reserve may contain wildlife sanctuary or national park in it. Like Pachmadi Biosphere Reserve contains two wildlife sanctuaries and one national park. The two wildlife sanctuary present in Pachmari Biosphere Reserve are Bori Sanctuary and Pachmari Sanctuary. And the national park which is present in, or you can say the Biosphere Reserve cover, that is Satpura National Park. The next protected area is Wildlife Sanctuary. Students, sanctuary means a place of safety. So, how you are going to define wildlife sanctuary? A wildlife sanctuary is a protected area of land which is created for the protection of wild animals in their natural environment like forests in which no hunting is permitted. Means a wildlife sanctuary doesn't allow any human activity which disturbs the wild animals or their habitat. Some of the wild animals which are protected and preserved in our wildlife sanctuaries are black buck, elephant, golden cat, python, rhinoceros, etc. Students, you all have visited zoo at least at a time. So how you are going to define that? Zoo is a large garden where many types of wild animals and birds brought from different parts of the country or across the world are kept in cages or enclosures so that the people can see them. So, is there any difference between a wildlife sanctuary and zoo? Both provided protection to the wild animals, but is there any difference? Yes, surely there is a difference. Let's learn about the difference between wildlife sanctuary and zoo. In wildlife sanctuary, the wild animals and birds live in their natural habitat in the forest. Whereas in zoo, yes, they live in the artificial setting such as cages or in the enclosure. Another point of difference, wildlife sanctuary contains wild animals and birds found locally in the local area. Whereas in the zoo, we will able to see the animals and the birds brought from different parts of the country or across the world also if they able to survive. A wildlife sanctuary is not open to the public freely like a zoo, whereas a zoo is having a fixed time for the peoples, for the public peoples to have a look on the animals. Wild animals and birds are very comfortable in the natural environment in a wildlife sanctuary. Whereas in zoo, it's obvious they are living in an artificial environment, so they are not that much comfortable at all. So I hope now you will able to differentiate between wildlife sanctuary and zoo. Now we will discuss national park. A national park is a relatively large area of scenic beauty. Scenic beauty means the beautiful sceneries. It includes protected and maintained by the government to preserve flora and fauna, landscape, historic objects of the area, and places of scientific interest. Another purpose of national park is to provide human recreation and enjoyment. Students, peoples are allowed to visit the national parks, but there are certain rules which they have to follow. Okay, they able to see the wild animals in their natural environment. They able to see the historic objects of the area for recreational enjoyment, inspirational and educative purposes. Used to be fulfilled in the national parks. National parks are large and diverse enough to protect whole set of ecosystems. Now, see, Satpura National Park in Madhya Pradesh is the first forest reserve of India. Remember this. Here you will get the finest Indian teak and also the objects of historical importance like the rock shelters are found in this Satpura National Park only. Okay, you will able to find 55 rock shelters, students, in this area, Satpura National Park, and in these rock shelters you will able to see rock paintings also whenever you will visit. Okay, so these rock shelters and rock paintings are one of the major tourist attraction of Satpura National Park, and this tells us about, or you can say these are the evidences of prehistoric human life in these jungles. Satpura National Park has a large species of wild animals in it. For example, tiger, gaur, leopard, Indian giant squirrel, cheetal, barking deer, and many more are there, children. Next, students, you all know that tiger is one of the many wildlife species which are slowly disappearing from our forest nowadays. So for that, there is a Satpura Tiger Reserve in Satpura National Park, which is a part of Project Tiger. Now, what is Project Tiger? See, Project Tiger is a wildlife conservation project which was launched by the government in 1972 to protect the tigers in India. The main objective of this project was to ensure the survival and maintenance of the tiger population. Next, we will learn about species. Now, what do you mean by species? A group of plants and animals having similar characteristics and capable of interbreeding within the group is termed as a species. Now you will find that this species we are going to study under three headings: endemic species, and endangered species, and extinct species. Let's see what kind of species we call as endemic species. Students, there are some species which found exclusively in a particular area and not found naturally anywhere else. Such species are said to be endemic to that area. For example, the plants such as sal and wild mango are found naturally only in Pachmadi Biosphere Reserve. So we can say these sal and wild mango are endemic flora of Pachmadi Biosphere Reserve. And similarly, giant squirrel, flying squirrel, bison are the endemic fauna of Pachmadi Biosphere Reserve. Students, there are a number of factors which are endangering the existence of these endemic species. Certain factors I am telling you: the destruction of forests, introduction of new species, increasing of human population. All these factors affect the natural habitat of endemic species which cause threat to their existence. Next, we will learn about extinct species. Extinct species are such species which no longer exist anywhere on the earth. Okay, such species which have died out completely, whose members are completely died off. Okay, means we won't able to have any member of the member alive, and such species are termed as extinct species. Students, you all have heard the name of dinosaurs, which were present on earth in the ancient time, but now we are not having that animal. So that is an example of extinct species. Other examples are also there: dodo, cave lion, Caspian tiger, and many more. Or any of the members of these animals are not alive, they all are dead. Next is endangered species. Now, how you are going to define that? The species which are facing the risk of extinction is called endangered species. Students, suppose the number of members of any species is less, or they are being killed by predators or being hunted by human beings, or if their natural habitat is being destroyed by deforestation. So such species can easily going to be get extinct. So when means before that we call them as endangered species. They are present but little less in amount. For example, tiger, snow leopard, Indian rhinoceros, etc. One more thing, children, only the larger animals are not facing the extinction. Even the small animals are more in danger of becoming extinct as compared to the bigger animals. As the human beings are randomly killing snakes, frogs, lizards, owls without realizing their importance in the ecosystem. You all know that they all plays an important part of food chain and food web in the ecosystem for maintaining a balance in the nature. So if we are going to disturb these populations, then obviously it will affect the environment. Next is Red Data Book. Red Data Book is the book which keeps a record of all the endangered animals, plants and other species. So we get every information, how much is present, which species are extincted, which are in the level at the range of extinction. Everything from this Red Data Book. Next, migration. Now, what is migration? The process of a bird or other animal moving from one place to another according to the season is called migration. Student, this process is an adaptation to escape from the harsh and cold condition of their normal habitat in winter so as to survive. So, what is the purpose of migration? First, they want means to survive by escaping the cold condition, and secondly, they also want to breeding means for breeding by laying eggs. Next is recycling of paper. Children, you all aware of that paper is made from wood pulp that is produced from the wood of forest trees. So we should save paper to save the forest trees. And for that what we can do? Recycling of paper. Students, why we should save paper, reuse paper and recycle paper? See, it should be done to save forest trees from being cut down, to save water used in paper making, to save energy that is electricity used in making paper, and to reduce the amount of harmful chemicals used in paper making. Next, reforestation. Reforestation means the planting of trees in an area in which forests were destroyed. Okay, it is the answer to the problem of deforestation. One and only answer of deforestation is reforestation. What are the advantages of reforestation? Reforestation produces a large quantity of raw materials which can be used for industry, furnitures and all. Secondly, it will help lead to a decrease in global warming by reducing the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Thirdly, it increases the rainfall in an area, which will help to raise the groundwater level and prevent droughts. It also prevents the soil erosion and floods. And lastly, it increases the area of the earth under forest, which is good for conservation of wildlife. With this, I end up